What's up, folks? It's 2Bricks, and I've been wanting to hop on here more frequently to do little kind of mini updates like this one, where I don't necessarily have the physical model in front of me yet, but I have the digital one, so I can show you guys what I'm doing here and what I'm thinking. Now, I just want to preface this with, as we go along, just picture this cockpit from the most recent DeLorean set in place of the purely transparent one that we see here. That decoration just simply isn't available in studio just yet, but this is the G-17 Imperial Reaper decommissioned and turned into the main ship from the Star Wars Starfighter movie that we got a leaked trailer for not too long ago. And I just wanted to take a stab at looking at the leaked trailer, and it's very blurry because it's just recorded on people's phones from the actual D23 event. They didn't release the trailer online, and I wanted to do a little bit of sleuthing to see if I could figure out what this Starfighter is actually meant to look like. Now, we did get some pretty good looks at it. We got a view here at the front, pretty good in terms of the front part, but the back section was all covered up with tarps. In the actual movie, there's they're working on it sitting in a garage, and so tarps cover most of it up, but you get a general sense for the shape from the front angle there. And then we see later on in the trailer a further away shot where it's basically this angle where the main character Cade is up here on this engine, and he's using like a grinding tool to work on this and install something or cut something to that effect. It's got a lot of sparks, but you do get a pretty good sense of the overall scale of it from, at least from the front 3/4 side here. We get one super brief look at the engines lighting up here, and it's basically this angle. So I was able to get a kind of a sense of that, but it cuts off right around here. So I don't actually know for sure if these elements are here or not. I know there's some sort of round element down here. By the way, I'm getting all of this by framing through the trailer over and over and over again, going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth to get my impressions of what this thing looks like. We do get a shot from the inside of the cockpit looking out, and we see the character of Cade standing in this gap right here. So we can see him through the windshield. The camera's mounted back here, so we get a look at the steering yoke. You can see those sort of classic, those classic sort of TIE fighter control thingies here that's sort of reminiscent of the Sith wayfinders that we see in the Rise of Skywalker, those sort of pyramid-shaped displays. So I put those in there, and then you can also see there's a blue sort of speed readout or something that's attached to the actual steering yoke, so I added that in there. And there's a single seater here that can seat a Cade figure. Now, just to be clear, this is not Cade Skywalker from the Legends canon. This is a new character named Cade with a K, played by Ryan Gosling, who's going to be escorting I think a Force-sensitive child to somewhere for some reason. So that's kind of the basic premise of the movie. That's not really a spoiler, it's just that's the premise of the movie. It's been out there. So yeah, that's that. So we do see in the trailer as well, we get this nice shot where the camera swoops up over the front here, and it goes right from the grill all the way back to the cockpit. And we can see this area here where we have these sort of heat sink looking details, and we get an overall sense of this shape in the front, and then these sort of armor plates that go back. And then we see up to this gray line here, and then we can't really see any further back than that because of just the camera placement. It's sort of like this. But we do get a sense of these cylinders on the side. I got a sense of the sort of details that are in there, so I've placed in some nice greeblies to try to replicate that. And then we do get a sense of these pillars, these pylons that hold the engines in place, and as well as the general shape of the front here, these cutout armor plates that go around, the shape of these cannons and how far out they come, because we get it in that 3/4 shot that I was mentioning. We can see the landing gear, and we can see the tips of these cannons poking out from the side here. So that gave me a sense for how long these actually are. Initially, I thought these cannons were much shorter, and I had them incorrect on my first illustration that I did. Yes, I did actually do an illustration of this to try to figure it out before I committed too much to the bricks, just because it helps me to visualize things. But yeah, it's all very clean. These two sort of large engine attachment things that sit up here have little landing gear underneath of them, and you can see that if we line it up from the side here, these line up perfectly on the bottom here to support the front part of the ship. I do hope that this is enough to support the ship. I think these large engines are going to be sort of a nice anchor point for the weight that will help to keep this from wanting to, tip forward too much. And I'm just hoping that the strength connection in these ratcheted joints here that can go in multi-different directions is strong enough. And I also have a couple of ratcheting hinge attachments here and here into the cockpit to hold this whole thing together, because as you can see, it's a really interesting, weird, segmented design. My sense of it is, if I had to guess, oh, sorry, the landing gear did get hidden. But if I had to guess, I would say that the original design of the ship is something like this. And then, so this would be like a sort of a standard new fighter that the Empire was working on before they got, taken down. And then this here would be an add-on that they did to give it the extra crazy boost of speed to just really, really push it to its limits and, be able to compete with the X-Wing on the actual battlefield. That's my sense of it. I don't really know for sure. But yeah, I could see fairly clearly these sort of cut out triangular looking details here, these recessed vents. I could see that pretty clearly back there. I could see the shape of these overall engine outlets. There's actually like 3 fairly prominent kind of white kind of heat sources coming out of the middle of this that are separated out in a way that was just really hard to capture with. So I just went with the overall trans red glow back here. I think that looks pretty good. And then I could just get a sense that there's something circular over here from the one shot that we saw of this angle. And I kind of just assumed that that's something like the detailing that we see on Darth Vader's TIE Advanced, where on the wings we have these little rounded details. I didn't go ahead and put the stickered element on here or the printed element with the kind of TIE Fighter decorations like we get on a lot of those fighters, though, because I'm not sure what's actually over there, and I didn't want to spend money on extra printed elements when I have a bunch of these already in my collection. I mean, I have a bunch of the TIE ones as well, but they're currently being used for another purpose. My Venator, actually, that's swallowed up all the ones that I had in my collection. We could get a pretty good sense of the details in here. There's these little rails that run down the center here, these little kind of pipe, little like skinny pipe details that run down the center of this area here, and then it gets narrower as we get towards the back, and then it rounds out and it goes up into the pylons here. So we got a pretty good look at all of that, and these kind of weird 45-degree angled sort of like, they look like electrical boxes, like fuse boxes or something. So that's an interesting look, and I wanted to try to capture those as best I could, and it was really fun figuring out all of the geometry to get all of these parts to kind of melt together in a satisfying way. And then yeah, these landing gear are retractable, so you can pull these ones up like so, and they kind of look like cannons in the in the underside here, which I think is a cool look, right? And then they come out and become support legs. And the only basis that I had for the positioning of these, and if these even exist at all, is that the front section here is off the ground when the ship is in that 3/4 position. We can see here that there's a shadow clearly underneath it, so this part does not sit on the ground. And there was light being cast from over here from Cade's the sparks that he's creating. And underneath the ship, you could see there was one little pillar here of area of light that was being blocked when those sparks would hit. And I figured that was because there was a landing strut under there of some description. And this happened to fit perfectly, so I just put it in there. But this one we can see a much clearer view of. And I'm fairly certain that this folds out of this pillar back here in the actual movie. So my version, we just have this where it folds up like so. And it goes into this little recessed area under here, under the wing, and then you can tuck this skid away, just like this, and then you can kind of just get the whole thing as far up under here as you want to kind of tuck it away. And I think that's a decently good look for when it's in flight. And again, we'll see if I can even pick the thing up and put it into flight mode to swoosh it around, unless it's gonna get completely trashed. So yeah, very, very interested to see how this all comes together, if I'm able to actually build this in real life, and how it's going to hold up. I'm just so proud of all of the little interesting, weird details. Oh, we didn't get any shot of the underside, by the way, so all of this is pure speculation. There could be any number of things under here, but I just chose to believe that these cooling vanes continue underneath and to the back, because that's what a lot of Star Wars ships tend to do, and I just rolled with it. So yeah, this is going to be a really, really interesting one. Even just figuring out how to set up these kind of pontoon structures that stick out of the front here, I'm really not sure what those are supposed to be, other than that they have air intakes at the front and then they feed into the engines back here, so I'm guessing maybe they feed air into these, but you know, they have their own intakes at the front here. So yeah, I really don't know what that's supposed to be. It could also be just additional engines, like these are just separate, you know, creating their own thrust and then feeding that into the main engine somehow. Oh, and then I should mention, I would be remiss if I didn't speculate on this a little bit here. The size and positioning of these engines overall, these engine pods, and the fact that they have a big cylinder coming out of them, that's a very Star Wars-y way of indicating that something rotates. Not always, right? We have cylinder shapes filled with details for things like airlocks and things of that sort, but I'm going to go ahead and speculate that these engines are going to rotate down. So we get one very, very, very brief, like 2 frames worth of, before all the sparks start happening, of this view right here with Cade standing here with his tools ready to go. And you can see that there's sort of like gears and teeth in this area, this dark gray area here, and it looks like something that would rotate. So my speculation is that these pylons actually attach directly to this cylinder here, and then there's an inner cylinder that rotates the whole engine down for when the ship is in landing mode. So it'll be able to do like vertical takeoff from back here. These engines will face towards the ground. That's my speculation. I really don't know if that's the case, but if that is the case, it'll be a really, really tricky thing to try to replicate on a ship of this size once it actually gets confirmed that that is the case in the movie. So I'm hoping that these are actually just fixed in place, because we really need the support, and trying to make this all rotate is going to be just an absolute nightmare pain. So there you go. But yeah, again, back here, the top sort of back shell that leads back into the back section here. The only reference that I have for that is in the front view here, where we see the tarps are draped over it. There's these sort of like 2 almost like horns sticking up a little bit here. And my speculation for what that is, what was causing that shape under the tarp, is that these 2 prominent fins that run down the back, or not prominent, I should say subtle fins that run down the back, that just sort of come to a peak right here. And I don't know, it just felt sort of 1970s car-esque, and that's what I went with. This whole thing is giving, 1970s classic American muscle car, and I very much like it for that, mixed with ultra kind of modern sci-fi looking engines. Yeah, let me know what you think. I know a lot of folks have immediately out of hand said that this is not Star Wars, this doesn't feel like Star Wars, but I think that the final ship, once we see it, will make a lot more sense visually, and will have a lot of those little hallmarks that you're used to seeing, and it'll feel very Star Wars-y indeed, or it just won't. There's some things that they add to the canon that just feel weird and out of place, like there was that Porsche designed ship that they introduced for the Rise of Skywalker to be in the big final battle. That didn't feel especially Star Wars-y. It felt kind of just like a different sci-fi take. But to me, this has enough things in it that feel like classic Star Wars that I'm willing to roll with it. And I think this design here is very interesting, especially if you picture that thing hides. This starts to feel much, much more classic Star Wars to me. And this is just an add-on. So I don't know. We'll see when the movie comes out. We have 6 months to go until the film actually comes out, or 7 months, something like that. And we haven't even gotten a proper trailer yet. We just got a tease leaked at very low res. So this is a lot to do, a lot to speculate based on very little, but I really love to do that. You guys know that's one of my passions on this channel, is analyzing things to death and figuring out what they might mean. I've done it now for several different ships and had pretty successful models come out of it. And, I get to use a little bit of my creative license to finish the thing off the way I think it ought to be finished. And then you can just appreciate, when you go back and actually watch the movie, you can go back and appreciate my take on it after the fact. So that's fun. So there you go. That's going to about do it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to do a couple more of these. I have my Ebon Hulk that I've completed the design for, and I'm going to give you guys a little digital tour of that, because again, I don't have the budget to purchase the parts for it right now. So I ended up just doing very limited testing of certain areas of it before I submitted the design to Barware for them to do their thing. And they will be, fully test building it and making improvements themselves as well. So very exciting on that front. But yeah, I'm excited to show that to you guys. So that'll be next. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next video, and may the Force be with you.